I almost skipped this month's mandatory family dinner. Running a stealth multi-billion-dollar tech empire tends to fill up one's calendar. But Mother insisted and some habits die hard. Elena, darling, Mom fussed as I entered their sprawling mansion, you look comfortable. I glanced down at my intentionally modest outfit, plain black sweater, simple jeans. The watch on my wrist cost more than their house, but they didn't need to know that. Yet. Tech startups, Dad said knowingly to his business friends at the table. No dress code, eh? If only they knew I'd closed a $500 million acquisition on my phone during the drive over. Richard's firm just went public, Mom announced proudly, gesturing to my brother. $2 billion valuation. Richard preened in his custom suit. Could have been higher, but the market's been tough. I hid a smile behind my water glass. My company had caused that market dip by acquiring 3 of his competitors last month. And Elena's still working on her. What was it again, dear? Mom turned to me. Just a tech company, Mom. Right. The little startup. She turned back to their guest. She's been at it for a few years now. Very persistent. My phone buzzed. Probably the Singapore office with the latest merger numbers. I ignored it. The show was about to start. Actually, Dad set down his fork. I've been meaning to talk to you about that, Elena. I think it's time you let me help. Here we go. Thanks, Dad, but we're doing fine. Now, he said in that voice that had always made me want to prove him wrong. I've been in business for 30 years. Let me invest a little, show you how things really work. Richard smirked. Could probably use some real business expertise, sis. My phone buzzed again. Then 3 more times in rapid succession. Elena, Mom sighed, at least look at your messages. It might be important. It's fine, I said, but reached for my phone anyway. Just work stuff. Then I saw the notifications. My stomach dropped. Breaking. Tech giant Shadow Systems revealed as world's largest private technology conglomerate. Mysterioso finally identified. Elena Chen, the secret billionaire. Everything okay, dear? Mom asked, noting my expression. Problems at your little company? The dining room doors burst open. Marcus, my CFO, rushed in, tablet in hand. Ma'am, I apologize for the interruption, but... He stopped, taking in the fancy dinner party scene. What is it, Marcus? I asked calmly, though I already knew. The story broke. All of it. Your net worth just crossed $11.2 billion with the market reaction. Mom's silverware clattered to the floor. Billion. Dad choked on his wine. There must be some mistake. No mistake, sir, Marcus said professionally. Miss Chen is the founder and CEO of Shadow Systems. We've been operating in stealth mode for the past 5 years, but someone leaked to the press. Richard's face had gone pale. Shadow Systems? The company that's been buying up everything in tech. The same, I confirmed, standing up. The company that acquired your 3 biggest competitors last month. Sorry about that market dip, by the way. $11 billion? Mom whispered. Actually, Marcus checked his tablet. It's up to $11.8 billion now. The market's responding very positively to your reveal, ma'am. Dad was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. But you said it was just a small startup. No, I corrected. You said that. I just never bothered to correct you. My phone was going crazy now. Calls from every major news outlet, business partners, other CEOs. Those business trips, Mom said faintly. When you said you were meeting investors. I was acquiring companies larger than Richard's, I finished. Sometimes 2 or 3 at a time. Marcus's tablet pinged. Ma'am, CNBC is asking for an interview. Also, the Prime Minister of Singapore is holding for you. The Prime Minister? Dad's business friends were openly staring now. We're building their new national technology infrastructure, I explained, gathering my things. One of our smaller projects, actually. Smaller. Richard croaked. The Saudi contract is bigger, Marcus supplied helpfully. And the EU deal, of course. I checked my watch. The $2 million Patek Philippe I'd kept hidden under my sleeve. Marcus, have the car brought around. We need to get to the office. Your office? Mom asked weakly. The local one, I said. The main headquarters is in Singapore, though we have others in London, Dubai, and Sao Paulo. Dad stood up shakily. Elena, about my offer to help. Thank you, I smiled, but I have a board meeting to prepare for. Fortune 500 CEOs get nervous if you keep them waiting. My phone buzzed again, my executive team calling for crisis management. Though this particular crisis felt oddly satisfying. We'll need to reschedule dinner, I told Mom. Running a global empire tends to fill up the calendar. Global empire? She repeated faintly. The little startup you were so worried about? I paused at the door. It's now bigger than the top 5 tech companies combined. But thanks for your concern. I left them sitting there, surrounded by scattered silverware and shattered assumptions. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just proving people wrong. It's letting them discover exactly how wrong they were over an expensive bottle of wine. The next morning's headlines were exactly what you'd expect. The Invisible Billionaire. How Elena Chen built a tech empire in secret. Shadow Systems revealed. The world's most powerful company you've never heard of. From family disappointment to tech titan. The Elena Chen story. I sat in my penthouse office watching the stock price climb. Marcus was orchestrating our PR response, handling the thousands of media requests flooding in. Your father's called 8 times, my assistant mentioned. Your mother 12. Richard's tried both lines and sent 3 emails. Any other family updates? I asked, scrolling through acquisition reports. Your mother's country club has suddenly found space for you on their board. They'd previously rejected your application 3 times. Fascinating how that works, I murmured, signing off on another billion-dollar merger. The elevator chimed special access, executive floor. Dad burst in, looking disheveled despite his expensive suit. Elena, he started, then stopped short at the view. The entire city spread out below us, his own impressive office building looking tiny from up here. Hello, Dad, I said calmly. I see you found our local headquarters. Local? He walked to the window. This is the tallest building in the city. One of our smaller offices, actually. You should see Singapore. Marcus entered with his tablet. Ma'am, the Asian market's just closed. We're up another 23%. The acquisition? Completed. We now own 67% of the global semiconductor market. Dad sank into a chair. Semiconductors? But Richard's company. Will need to negotiate their chip supply with us now, I finished. Business is business after all. My private elevator chimed again. Mom appeared this time, looking like she'd spent hours getting ready for this moment. Darling, she started, then faltered as she took in the scene. The power desk, the wall of screens showing global operations, the quiet army of assistants managing an empire. Mrs. Chen, Marcus nodded professionally. Would you like to see your daughter's current net worth? It's quite impressive this morning. Mom sat down hard next to Dad. My phone buzzed, the Prime Minister again. This time I took the call on speaker. Yes, we'll proceed with the infrastructure upgrade. No, 12 billion is our final offer. Yes, I understand it's a nation's worth of technology, that's why we're offering 12 billion. I ended the call to find my parents staring. You just negotiated with a Prime Minister, Mom whispered. 1 of 6 today. I checked my schedule. Busy morning. Marcus's tablet pinged. Ma'am? Richard's company is requesting an emergency meeting. Their chip supply. Tell them to schedule through proper channels, I said. Family dinner conversations don't count as business meetings anymore. Dad finally found his voice. Why didn't you tell us? Tell you what? I turned to face them fully. That while you were bragging about Richard's successful company, I was building something 100 times bigger. That your little girl with her cute startup was actually controlling most of the world's technology infrastructure. We would have helped, Mom protested. Like you helped by rejecting my early funding requests? By telling me to get a real job like Richard? The screens behind me lit up with more trading data. Another subsidiary's value jumping. About that investment offer, Dad said carefully. Obviously, the terms would be different now. Dad, I smiled, almost pitying them now. I spent more on office furniture last month than your company's entire net worth. Marcus coughed politely. Ma'am? The G7 leaders are waiting in the video conference room. The G7? Mom's voice was faint. The actual. Yes, Mother. Turns out running the world's largest tech company involves some high-level meetings. I stood, smoothing my now obviously expensive blazer. I trust you can find your way out? Some of us have countries to negotiate with. Elena, Dad tried one last time. We're still family. Are we? I turned back. Because family would have believed in me 5 years ago. Would have seen me building something extraordinary instead of dismissing it as a cute project. My phone buzzed Richard this time. Probably panicking about his chip supply. Tell Richard, I told my assistant, that business hours are between 9 and 5, and his sister the CO doesn't take personal calls about professional matters. When did you become so? Mom gestured at everything: the office, the empire, the power. I've always been this person, I said quietly. You just never bothered to see it. Too busy bragging about Richard's success to notice who was really succeeding. Marcus appeared again. Ma'am? It's time. For what? Dad asked. To announce our next acquisition, I smiled. A little company called Global Tech Solutions. Richard's main competitor. We're buying them for roughly what his entire company is worth. Mom's face fell. But Richard's stock will probably drop another 30% when the market realizes what's happening, I finished. Business is business, remember? Isn't that what you always taught us? I walked to the conference room door, then paused. Oh, and Mom? The country club board position? I bought the entire club this morning. You can keep your membership though. Family discount. I left them sitting there, surrounded by the evidence of power they'd failed to see building. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just proving people wrong. It's becoming so much bigger than they ever imagined possible. The Forbes cover story hit newsstands a week later. The Shadow Queen. How Elena Chin built $1 trillion empire in secret. I had the magazine framed, not for the cover photo of me in front of our Singapore headquarters, but for the small inset picture of our local office building dwarfing my father's company's headquarters. The business world is still in shock, the CNBC anchor was saying on one of my office's many screens. Shadow Systems hasn't just been acquiring companies, it's been quietly controlling the entire tech infrastructure of modern civilization. My phone buzzed Richard again. That made 27 calls since his company's stock dropped 40% yesterday. Your mother's on line 3, my assistant mentioned. Something about the country club board election? Tell her the new owner traditionally picks the board, I said, signing off on another acquisition. But she's welcome to apply through proper channels. Marcus entered with his morning report. We've crossed $1.2 trillion in market cap. The EU antitrust regulators are nervous. Send them the usual reminder about who controls their digital infrastructure. Already done. Also, your father's company is requesting a meeting. Something about a potential merger. I actually laughed at that one. Tell them we don't acquire companies worth less than our daily coffee budget. The elevator chimed. Richard stormed in, looking considerably less polished than usual. You have to stop this, he demanded. My company's falling apart. Fascinating, I replied, not looking up from my screens. Did you schedule this meeting through proper channels? I'm your brother. And I'm the CEO of the company that controls your entire supply chain, I reminded him. Which role do you think matters more right now? Marcus cleared his throat. Sir, Ms. Chen's schedule is fully booked. Perhaps you'd like to submit a formal request for a meeting. A formal? Richard sputtered. Elena, this is ridiculous. We're family. Family. I finally looked at him. Like when you told the venture capitalists not to fund my hobby project 5 years ago. That kind of family. His face paled. You knew about that? I own those venture capital firms now. I smiled. I know everything. My phone buzzed, the president this time. Unlike Richard, she'd scheduled properly. Now if you'll excuse me, I stood. I have a call with the White House about national security infrastructure. Feel free to submit that meeting request. I think we have an opening in Marcus. March, he checked his tablet. Of next year. Richard stood there, mouth open, as I walked to the secure conference room. Before the door closed, I heard him ask Marcus quietly, did she really buy the country club just to keep Mom off the board? No, sir, Marcus replied. She bought the entire chain of country clubs. Your mother's membership application is pending review. The next few hours were a blur of global leadership calls, market manipulations, and watching my empire grow even larger. Shadow Systems wasn't just a company anymore. It was the invisible framework holding up the modern world. Around sunset, my assistant announced one final visitor. "Send them in," I said, already knowing who it would be. Dad entered slowly, looking older than he had at that fateful dinner party. "Elena," he started, then stopped, taking in the wall of screens showing our global operations. His entire business life had been a small regional company. Mine was reshaping continents. "Here to offer more business advice?" I asked mildly. "I'm here to apologize," he said quietly. "That I hadn't expected. I was wrong," he continued. "So wrong. We all were. We saw what we expected to see, our little girl playing at business. We never imagined that I was building something that would make your company look like a corner store," I finished. "That the daughter you dismissed would end up controlling the technological fate of nations." "Yes," he admitted. "Exactly that." Marcus entered with the evening reports. "Ma'am, we've just acquired the last independent chip manufacturer. We now control 98% of global semiconductor production." "Including my company's supply," Dad said softly. "Including everything," I corrected. "That was always the plan. Control the infrastructure, control the world. And we never saw it coming." "No," I agreed. "You were too busy telling me to be more like Richard. How is his company doing, by the way?" "You know exactly how it's doing," Dad sighed. "You're the one doing it to him." "Business is business," I quoted his favorite phrase back to him. "Isn't that what you always taught us?" My phone buzzed. Singapore headquarters with the Asian markets opening numbers. "Another trillion in value added." "Your mother misses you," Dad tried. "The family dinners are no longer mandatory," I finished. "Success has its privileges. And the country club board is learning that power isn't about whose name has been on the membership list longest. It's about who owns the list." Dad nodded slowly, finally understanding. "You're not just successful," he said. "You're powerful. Actually, truly powerful. The difference," I stood, indicating our meeting was over, "is that I always was. You just couldn't see it through your own assumptions." He walked to the door, then turned back. "For what it's worth, I'm proud of you." Now, I repeated. "After I built an empire. After I became more powerful than you ever dreamed of being." Funny how that works. After he left, I stood looking out over the city. Somewhere down there, my family was realizing that their world had always been smaller than they thought. And that the daughter they'd underestimated now held that world in her hands.